Hi, I am attorney Katie Harris with the Charles Blake Law Offices, and I am here today to talk to you a little bit about depositions. I'm going to talk to you about, first of all, what a deposition is, why it's important, and I think a thing that everybody wonders about: what the heck am I supposed to wear for my deposition? So, okay, what's a deposition? A deposition is testimony under oath before you get to the trial. So it's an opportunity for the attorney on the other side to sit down and ask you questions about yourself, about your medical history, about your personal background, what happened in the accident. They'll ask you about what kind of treatment you've had and how you're feeling now, and essentially it gives them a picture of what impact has this had on your life and how do you back up your claims for trial. The deposition is probably one of the most important, if not the most important, pre-trial things that you personally will do for your lawsuit. It is the only chance you have to see the attorney for the insurance company face to face before we get to a trial. Now, I know a lot of times cases settle, and a lot of times that is because of what does or doesn't happen in the deposition. A good deposition can set you up for the best outcome. One of the reasons that a deposition is so important is because it's the only time that the insurance company will see you before trial. So when they come in that day, they have read the complaint that we drafted, they have read your medical records, and they know basically what you're claiming and what your doctor's notes have said about how you're doing. What they don't know is really anything about what you are like as a person. And at the end result of this case, say everything goes through, we don't settle, and we wind up in front of a jury. At the end of the day, is the jury going to like this plaintiff? So that really gives you a unique opportunity at your deposition to put on your best face, to be the best version of yourself, and to show the insurance company lawyer, yes, I'm a person that the jury is going to like. They will relate to me. They will think that I am an honest individual, and they'll believe what I'm saying about how I've been injured in this accident. A deposition is less formal than court, so it's usually in a conference room like ours here. You'll have your attorney there, you'll have the other attorney, and a court reporter, and the attorney will go through and ask you questions. It's less formal than court, but at the same time, you want to be respectful at all times. You want to be polite, kind, and honest. Honesty is the biggest thing for your deposition. And the reason that becomes just very critical for your case is that, like I've said, your deposition is under oath. You are expected to be telling the truth. If you say something different at trial, the attorney on the other side will automatically just pull out a copy of your deposition, and they'll say something like, well, isn't it true that at your deposition you said X? And now you're telling me Y as an answer to the same question. Which of those is true? They'll use that discrepancy, that difference between what you said, I mean, it could even be a year earlier, and what you've said at trial, to essentially get the jury to kind of wonder, well, which one of these is true? He said two different things, or she said two different things about the same question. Which of these is true, and were they lying for one of them? And if they're lying about one thing, then does that maybe make me wonder as a juror if they're being honest or dishonest about other things? So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about what the insurance company attorney will do after your deposition. During your deposition, he or she will, in addition to asking you a bunch of questions, will be taking some pretty detailed notes about what you've said. These notes will include not only your answers to questions, but also the attorney's impressions about how you seemed as a person, how you were dressed, and how your attitude seemed, and basically, at the end of the day, whether they thought you were likable and relatable. They then take their notes, they go back to their office, and they write up a report for the insurance company. And that report will talk about, again, those impressions of what you said about the facts of your case and what they think about you as a person and how they believe you'll present to the jury. If it's a good impression, that's great. That's wonderful for you. It sets up your case to be very successful. If it was a poor impression that the other attorney got, then that can be incredibly damaging to your claim, because it's really almost impossible to come back from making a bad first impression like that. Generally, in your lawsuit, after the other side has had an opportunity to review your records, they will contact your attorney and ask for a deposition. And at that point, it's kind of behind the scenes for a little bit. The attorneys usually go back and forth with a few dates that work with their calendars. If they find a few that work, your attorney will then get a hold of you and float some dates by you and just make sure that whatever date's been scheduled will actually work with your calendar. You'll schedule a preparation session with your attorney so that you can go over, again, the facts of the case, any questions you might have, and some of the ground rules for a deposition. And then after that prep session, you'll come in for the day of your deposition. Usually, you'll want to get there early because you'll want to have an opportunity to set your mind at ease, ask any of those last questions that you might have, and just make sure that you're on time, because obviously being on time is one of those things that can either help your case if you're there and really hurt you if you're not. The main thing is you really need to show that you're taking this seriously, because obviously it is important to you, but you need to project that to the other side as well. So you come in, like I said, well, it'll probably be in a conference room. You'll sit beside a court reporter who will have a little type pad in front of him or her to take down in a shorthand everything that you've said. In some scenarios, it might be video recorded also. You will know in advance if you are going to be videotaped. And there's really no rhyme or reason to when to expect to be videotaped. I think it's more that certain attorneys want to do it and certain don't. But you'll know in advance whether you'll be video recorded or whether there will just be the stenographer taking down in shorthand what you've said. As the deposition begins, the other attorney will introduce herself or himself. Again, we'll go through kind of some ground rules, and one of those is don't talk over each other, because it's really all about just trying to make things easy for the court reporter. If there are two people talking over each other, you can't take down everybody at once. So the attorney will get past the ground rules and then go into whatever questions they've prepared for you. Now, this can run the gamut from everything. I mean, it's really an incredibly broad range of information that they'll ask you about, and it'll probably begin with questions about your background. They'll be really easy questions to start, I imagine. What's your name? What's your date of birth? Where have you lived for the past 10 years? Where did you go to school? Did you graduate? What kind of training or other education do you have? And then they'll gradually work through that background information to ask you about your medical history. Did you ever have any of these kind of symptoms before this accident? If you have a car accident case, they'll ask you, where were you headed that day? Ask you about general information about the weather, the road conditions, what you were able to perceive before this happened. And then the crash itself, what you remember about it and what you remember from the aftermath. They will ask you about what treatment you had from the actual incident. They'll go through kind of all your treatment that you've had and ask whatever questions they have for you about it. And then they'll ask you about, I would imagine, what kind of impact this incident has had on your daily life. Are there things that you used to do that you can't do now? How do you feel different on a daily basis now than you did before this happened to you? And those are some of the kinds of things that you'll want to think through before your deposition and be prepared to answer, because the impact on how your life has changed from it is one of the things that does impact the value of your case. So you'll want to be prepared to think through and talk about, gosh, what kind of quality of life did I have the day that this happened, and what quality of life did I have 4 months after it, and how am I doing now? Are there still things that I can't do? So I think one of the best things that people can do to prepare for this is just think through the story of everything they've gone through from day one until the day of the deposition. As we tell a lot of our clients, this is your life story here that you have an opportunity to tell through the deposition. So be prepared to talk about it and know your basic outline of how everything has developed and happened, and just be ready to explain everything that's gone on in your life since this incident occurred. Make sure that you listen to what the other attorney has asked you very carefully, and to only answer the question that they actually asked you. A few examples of this: if somebody asks you, do you know what time it is? That's a yes or no question. They're not asking you for the time. So if they say, do you know what time it is? The answer is either yes or no. The answer is not, it's 10:45. And I think a lot of times as human beings, we have a tendency to want to fill silences or to explain ourselves further. A deposition is really not the time to be doing that. If we go to trial in a case, your attorney has the opportunity to help you tell your story to the jury. That is led and directed by your attorney who has your best interests at heart. In a deposition, the attorney on the other side is asking you questions for a purpose. Yes, it's informal. Yes, they're probably going to be very nice and polite to you during this back and forth question-answer conversation you have. But they're there to do a job, and their job is to defend the claim that you're bringing. If you open up and give them a lot more information than they've asked for, you're opening a window for them that they didn't ask to be opened, and you could be giving them a lot of information that might seem completely harmless to you. But the truth is, you never know what they're going to do with that information that you've volunteered. And it's hard to see when you're having a conversation with a person how that offhand remark you made about going out on your boat might come back to hurt you later. Maybe it was in the course of an explanation, but then maybe they look back at everything and they say, well, wait a minute, he said that he actually can't go out on the speedboat anymore, and then he happened to mention during his deposition that he's still doing that from time to time. And it really can be anything. It's just you don't want to get into a situation where you are volunteering information that they haven't asked for. Your deposition gives you such a great opportunity to make a good impression on the attorney for the other side, and through that, on the insurance company itself. One of the main ways you can make a good impression, or a bad one, is based on how you present yourself at the deposition, including what you're wearing. The best way to think about it is that, in a way, this is a kind of interview. The defense attorney is asking you a bunch of questions, more or less interviewing you about how good of a witness you are going to be at trial. And if you think about it with that job interview or interview mindset, I think that gives you the beginning of some guidance on how you should be prepared to dress for this. I will say, for gentlemen, I think it's a little less perhaps tricky for you. The main thing is just look nice, look presentable. I'd say probably a collared button shirt and a nice pair of pants, and you're fine. If you want to wear a tie, that's great. If you don't, it's probably okay too. For ladies, a dress, skirt and a sweater or a top, a nice pair of black pants, and some kind of a blouse or just a regular shirt. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go out and buy a whole new outfit for your deposition. Generally, you can find something in your closet that's going to be appropriate. Will make you look well put together, and again, we'll give that positive first impression that you want to give to the other side. Don't wear hats. Don't wear a shirt that says anything. It just gives you too many opportunities to have a shirt on that says something that maybe gives the wrong impression. And don't wear flip-flops. Make sure you are clean and neatly groomed. Just make sure that you are making a positive impression for the audience that you have, which again is not your best friends, it's not your significant other or your mom and dad. It's an insurance company that's evaluating you and really judging what what they think a jury is going to think of you. So keep that in mind and dress accordingly. Well, now that we have gone through a few of the things about what a deposition is, what to expect, and why it's important for your case, you may have more questions in the future. That's understandable. It's a new thing that not many people have done before, so we're always here. If you have more questions after watching all of these videos, feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email. We're here anytime to answer any concerns you might have.